Hello, my friends. It's Nick. It's the ASMR Nerd. And welcome to another video. It's nice to have you here. Today, we're going to be talking about video games. I know, it's a shock. It always is. Never expected around these parts. But specifically, we're going to be talking about vintage video games, which is probably also no surprise to most of you. These games that I've got here in front of me are some that I picked up recently from the thrift store. I like to stop in at thrift stores and just take a look, see what they got. A lot of the time, there's not much, but every once in a while, you hit a really good one. Somebody brought in a load of games from their childhood or whatever, just giving them away. So you can pick up some really fun stuff for really cheap, because that's how thrift stores work. And so recently I picked up some that I'm pretty excited about as a child of the 90s. And not only are they interesting games worth talking about, but they also have really nice boxes with really nice manuals and other fun pack-ins, which of course is very nostalgic for me, but for some of you, maybe you were born after that era of games. Maybe you never really experienced that era of awesome manuals and other fun stuff in the box. So this will be a neat look at some of that, so that you can get a sense of why people of my vintage, look back so fondly on those days and kind of miss those days. So we've got stuff spanning the year 2000 to going back all the way to 1987. Actually, is the oldest game that I have in this pile here. And we'll go in chronological order, I think. We'll start with the, or reverse chronological order, I guess. We'll start with the youngest. We'll go to the oldest. But before I do that, guess what? I have something to tell you. And I bet you have an idea what it might be. But Nick, you're saying, there's no way this is a segue into an Into the AM sponsored segment because you're not wearing an amazing Into the AM graphic tee. Well, that's where you would be wrong, because this video is sponsored by Into the AM, and this is one of their gorgeous, comfortable, stylish new flannels. It's chilly around here right now. It might be where you are too. We're still in the winter months, although headed towards spring, but it's still pretty cold in much of the northern hemisphere. And maybe you've seen me talking about Into the AM graphic tees in recent months in other videos, and you've said to yourself, that looks really rad, but it's too thin. It's so cold out right now. Why would I wear a graphic tee? That is where Into the AM has you covered with their amazing flannels, like you see here. Doesn't this look fantastic though? Like, check it out. Doesn't this look good? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it right now. But it's not just the flannels. You might have heard me talk about their hoodies before. They've got these new button-up shirts. They sent one of those over recently for me to check out as well. And it looks really, really nice. You'll probably see it in an upcoming video. And of course, they've got the graphic tees for which they are well known. All of the above are available to you at Into the AM. And what you might not know is if you bundle them up, you get a discount. You can save up to 30% by building your own bundle of 3 or 6 of any of these items. The tees, the shirts, the flannels. They've also got tank tops, sweats, shorts, beanies, whatever you want to wear, whatever you're feeling, they've got you covered. And all of Into the AM's apparel is extremely comfortable. Like, this is nice and soft. It's really nicely fitted, just like their t-shirts. The cut on all their clothes works just perfect for my body type, and I've heard from many of you that you love the way their clothes fit. You love the way their clothes feel. They're easy to care for. Their stuff is pre-shrunk, no hassle, and it looks fantastic, right? So what's not to like? Well, I've got even better news for you. You can save 10% off your entire order at Into the AM by using the code down below at the top of the video description. That covers everything. Flannels, tees, the whole shebang. Make sure you click on through, check out what they got. Their flannels come in all kinds of different colors. Their t-shirts obviously have tons and tons of amazing, beautiful graphic designs, curated, and get new ones every month. So go check out what Into the AM has to offer. Click through on that link, save 10% off your entire order. And if you do so, you'll also be supporting myself and this channel. So thank you very much. If you do that, it means a lot to me. And I'm sure you will love your beautiful new clothes from Into the AM. Thanks, Into the AM, for sponsoring today's video and hooking me up with this awesome flannel. I'm really enjoying it. I'm just looking at myself on the screen. I'm like, yeah, that does look really good. It's really nicely fitted. I don't know. I think it's pretty fantastic. So, that's what I wanted to tell you. Did I fool you? Were you wondering if I was going to talk about Into the AM, but then like second guessed yourself because it's not a graphic tee? I hope so. All right, but hey, video games, vintage video games. Let's get started here. So the first game that I found recently at the old thrift shop is very topical. It is Baldur's Gate 2. Baldur's Gate 2. This, of course, came out well before Baldur's Gate 3 and was developed by an entirely different developer. But the recent runaway success, massive cultural hit that Baldur's Gate 3 has proved to be, I think has a lot of people interested in the classic older Baldur's Gate games. Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Amn came out way back in the year 2000, and it was, of course, developed by BioWare, who went on to do the Dragon Age games, the Mass Effect games, KOTOR, all those hits that you know and love. But Baldur's Gate 2 predated those, and I played Baldur's Gate 2 back in the day, but I never actually owned it. I borrowed it from my friend, and I remember my friend brought it over to my place for the first time, and we were installing it, and I was blown away by how much hard drive space it took. I'd never encountered a game that required that much space, and I bet you it actually says on here. What does it say? Okay, so system requirements, Windows 95 or 98, a Pentium 2, 233 megahertz or faster. I think at the time I actually only had a Pentium 166, and I think I tried to run it on there. I think it did run, but I don't think it ran well. Unless it's possible that I played it after we got our Athlon XP machine. I don't remember. I think it was on the 166 though. 800 megabytes of hard drive space required. 800 megs, which, yeah, to me was just unheard of at the time. And I think there might have actually been like a bigger install option than that, where you could install more of the stuff off the disks onto your hard drive for like faster load times and stuff. And I feel like that was like well over a gigabyte. The concept of a game taking up more than a gigabyte of space just blew my mind at the time. So you can see we have a box that's honestly pretty good shape. Like it's a little dog-eared on the corners, a little bit scuffed, but not too bad. It's looking pretty nice. Front and back in good shape. This is a smaller box, obviously, and it was right around this time that devs were transitioning from the big boxes of the 90s to these smaller boxes of the 2000s. And the next game here actually came out just before Baldur's Gate 2, and you'll see in a second, but you'll also see that it comes in a much larger box. So the year 2000 was sort of, could have gone either way, depending. I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but I also have up there, I've got Age of Empires 1 and 2, and AoE 2 came out in 1999, and it's in a big box as well. So the box has logo on the front, the title. It's got this sort of spell tome-like appearance. And then on the back, we've got all kinds of information about the game. Welcome to a world, intrigue, adventure, and fierce combat. Some screenshots. Developed by BioWare, published by Black Isle, and of course licensed by Wizards of the Coast for their D&D property. This game is based on the AD&D second edition rule set, as was Baldur's Gate 1 before it, which was just called Baldur's Gate, of course. And if you open up the front here, we have some more screenshots, the dragon, all kinds of combat going on. It reads here, shall I read to you what it says? In Baldur's Gate 1, okay, so they do, let's call it 1 here. You defeated your evil half-brother, Saravok. Oh man, spoilers right off the bat, sorry guys. You know what, maybe I won't read the rest. I don't know, is it bad if it's, Baldur's Gate 1 came out, how many years ago now? 26-year-old game spoilers. You know what? Just in case you go back and play it, you might. I won't spoil it for you. But these games, going back to them nowadays, definitely feels a little clunky. They are pretty dated. It would be really, really neat to see a remake of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, maybe using the engine from Baldur's Gate 3 and the D&D 5e rule set. I'm sure saying that is probably triggering some of you. I'm sure many of you would say that's sacrilege, but I think it would be a cool way for modern players to enjoy the stories of these old games in an updated way that plays a bit smoother and looks a bit nicer. Given the hype around Baldur's Gate 3, it could happen. I could see them remaking Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. They did release enhanced editions of these games maybe a decade or so ago. Beamdog Studio put out updated versions that run on a slightly newer version of the Infinity engine that these games were known for. But and they have some quality of life things and some upgrades, but they're still essentially the old games, you know, graphically and whatnot. So let's open it up. I was talking earlier about how we've got nice stuff in here, and so I won't keep you waiting any longer to see that. So this style of box sort of has this tray in it, just a cardboard tray, like so. inside there, we have the game discs, of which there are 4. This game came on 4 CDs, and regrettably, unfortunately, one of them is actually missing from this box, and I did not realize that until I got it home. But as you can see, we have disc 1, we're missing disc 2, and we have disc 3 and disc 4. Each one has different art on it, which is kind of nice. It's kind of a shame they only come in these paper sleeves, but they do the trick, I suppose. But we've also got a couple other fun things in here, and you know, the missing disc for me, like, it's kind of a bummer from like a collector's standpoint, but there's so many other ways to play Baldur's Gate 2 if you really want to, such as the enhanced edition, which you can get on Steam or GOG, and it's, you know, I don't know, often on sale for a few dollars. So, but maybe I'll see if I can find a random copy of that second disc on eBay or something, just to finish the box here. But also inside is a paper map. And this is pretty pristine. It looks like it's never been opened up practically. You can see it's all folded up here. There it is. And so this shows the Kingdom of I guess. Kingdom's not kingdom, but that region. Athkatla in inset here. And it's, you know, maybe not the nicest quality map ever, but it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. And it is in really good shape, so. Which is pretty cool. How did this fold up now? Let's see if I can pull this out. That way, that way, that way. Very good. And then we've got the manual, which, yeah, here I was talking up the big manuals, and we will get to some truly monstrous manuals, not monster man, not. Let's try that again. We're talking about D&D here, so that's a little confusing. We'll get to some really big manuals, some chongus manuals, towards the end of the video here. And this one is pretty tiny by comparison, but it's pretty thick, right? It's pretty thick. We've got a dedication here in the front to one Daniel Walker, second employee of BioWare, who must have passed away during the development of Baldur's Gate 2, I suppose. Which is a shame. Imagine that he never got to see it completed. We've got a big long introduction from one of the co-founders of BioWare, Dr. Ray Muzica. I've never quite known how to pronounce his name, but got all that there. What's included in the game manuals? Character generation, abilities, spells, interface, actions. You can see it just goes and goes and goes. Manual 2, Volo's Guide to Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of Volo's personal introduction. Volothamp Gedarn. It's pretty fun. characters, some of which you might recognize if you are a player of Baldur's Gate 3. Characters like Jaheira, characters like Minsk, of course, and others. And it goes into talking about enemies, Umber Hulks, vampires, werewolves, alignment, saving throws, healing and hit points. It just goes and goes and goes. Spells in the back here. Every spell of the game. It just keeps going. Character ability score tables. And notes if you want a space to write your own notes in the back. Despite being small, this thing's got a lot packed into it. And lastly, we have a quick reference card, as if there wasn't enough in there. I guess it does make sense to kind of try and boil it down to something a little bit more bite size. We've still got, this is still not that bite sized. It goes and goes and goes. All the spells once again. This time small. Yeah, that's a lot. So that's a pretty fun package, and I do wish that all of the discs were present, but I think this was $6 Canadian. So considering the nostalgia factor for me, and it's in pretty great shape. Missing disc notwithstanding. I think that was a pretty fun find. Alrighty then. Let's keep moving along. The second game that I found is one that I never played, actually. I only ever read about it in PC Gamer magazine. And that is Warlords Battle Cry. Warlords Battle Cry. This game came out also in the year 2000, just a few months ahead of Baldur's Gate 2. I think Baldur's Gate 2 came out in September of that year, and I think Warlords Battle Cry came out in June. So they're very similar vintage. And yet, you can see that Baldur's Gate 2 had a much more modern box style, much smaller. Whereas Warlords Battlecry definitely looks like something out of the 90s, doesn't it? With the size of the box and just the styling in general. This is very like metal looking art on the front here. It looks like, metal album cover. But just has a very 90s vibe to it for sure. And Warlords Battlecry, as I understand it, was a spin-off of the Warlords series, which was a hybrid role-playing and turn-based strategy game. The Battlecry series spin-off of Warlords is a real-time strategy RPG hybrid, and it did kind of what Warcraft 3 would do several years later. It did that in a similar fashion, where you had kind of hero characters that you would develop in an RPG-like fashion, but they would play on a real-time strategy battlefield where you would build up your base and send out your troops and stuff like that. So that's my understanding. Anyway, having never played it. I believe there were two more in the Warlords Battlecry series after this. I didn't play any of them. On the back here, it says finally, role-play heroes meet in real-time strategy. We've got some screenshots here. Prepare to enter the next generation of real-time strategy. Here you'll develop a hero to lead your forces into battle. Share your abilities and spells with surrounding members of your army, and develop your hero as you expand your empire. Because what's the fun of winning a battle if you don't know who to carry off on your shoulders? Sure. My understanding also is that Warlord's Battlecry was a commercial failure, at least in North America. I think it sold a fair bit better in Europe. And sure enough, if we look at this box, I believe this is a European release because we have this, what does this say? ELSPA 11 plus OK. It's a European rating before the ESRB. I can't read what it says around it. The European something. Anyway. We've also got system requirements that are very similar to Baldur's Gate 2. Windows 95 or 98, 233 megahertz Pentium, 64 megs of RAM, 650 megabytes of hard disk space. So let's see what's inside. You can hear there's stuff sliding around in there. All of these games here that I have today are PC games, I should specify. I was a PC gamer in my youth, and still am primarily, but that's the system I had access to, so that's the one I have the most nostalgia for. We didn't really get like a current console, current for the time, until we got a Wii. I did have a Game Boy Color growing up, and we got an NES from a friend, but yeah, definitely PC was where I played most of my games. So here we have the game disc, rather than the 4 discs of Baldur's Gate 2. Warlord's Battlecry appears to have only been a single disc here. Like so. Like so. And we do get a manual here as well. This one is a little bigger, which makes sense. The box being a little bit bigger. I love this font here. I think it's called Exocet, and I associate it so strongly with Diablo 1 and 2 in particular. But I really love that font. And it seems like they're trying to sort of evoke that feeling here by using Exocet. In the manual, we can learn all about playing a game, of course. But just like the Baldur's Gate 2 manual, we have all kinds of information about units for the different armies. I believe there were 9 different armies in this game. Dwarves, humans, orcs, all that good fantasy stuff. Elves, there's all the different buildings, spells, quests. There was some questing component, heroes and levels, ships. Ships. Yeah, tons of good stuff. And some credits as well. The great thing about these manuals back in the day was that if you were ever in a situation where you couldn't play the game, you could enjoy the manual. I know this is the next best thing to playing the game. I have very strong memories of the Age of Empires 1 manual. It's actually the gold edition, technically, which included the Rise of Rome expansion. And I remember going on vacation in the summer with my family. And of course, I couldn't play Age of Empires while we were, away on vacation. And so I took the manual, and I remember laying in bed in the hotel and reading through that Age of Empires manual because they had full-page write-ups of each civilization in the game. And I learned so much about, the history of these civilizations. And I've said it before, but that is a large part of what sparked my lifelong interest in those things. So, really cool. And something that I definitely miss. Warlords Battlecry also comes with a quick reference type item here. This one, we can learn about character options for our heroes, different classes, fighters. I see there's 4 major professions: warrior, rogue, priest, and wizard. Very original. And then specialization classes for each. So like warrior can specialize into fighter, barbarian, or ranger. Obviously very D&D inspired. We can also learn about the various races of the game. There's 9, as I was saying: humans, barbarians, high elves, dwarves, minotaurs, wood elves, undead, orcs, and dark elves. And we get to see the tech tree, or I guess building tree, for each of them here. Like so. Hotkeys and shortcuts on the back. There are a bunch of skills. You can see each race has access to all kinds of different skills. I don't know if I'll be able to get this running on my modern PC. Don't know if the installer will work, but I'm going to give it a shot. And it's possible that it's also available on like GOG or something like that. So I'll have to see, because if this disc version won't work, maybe I can play it some other way, because I do want to check it out. So that's pretty fun. Okay, up next here, we're going a little further back in time to a game that hopefully some of you are familiar with. This is Riven, as it says on the front, the sequel to Myst. This game released in late 1997, and it was very popular, apparently, despite the fact that it released with only 2 months left in the year. It was still the best-selling game of 1997, and within a year of its release, it sold over 1.5 million copies, which, by modern standards, modern blockbuster standards, doesn't sound like that much necessarily, especially when you have your Pal Worlds selling whatever, like 8 million copies in 5 days or something stupid like that. But you have to remember, this was a very different time. Gaming was a lot more niche, for starters. Also, it was physical only. So, you were buying a box like this at retail, and it would have been full price, right? So, where we have games these days, like Pal World, that are quite a bit cheaper, and more of an impulse purchase, easy to buy online, play with friends. I guess, buying a game was a bit more of a commitment back in the 90s. So, those sales numbers were quite impressive at the time. This box copy of Riven is in spectacular shape. The box is like nearly pristine. And oops. The only kind of blemish, I guess if you might call it that here, is you can see there was once a sticker of some kind on here that I guess was, you know, like a little badge advertising, I don't know, something, a little ribbon, which I guess it's just the residue that's left, or I'm not quite sure what happened there. But clearly the graphic is no longer on there. But otherwise, it's in stellar shape. Riven, of course, was or is a adventure game loaded with puzzles and pre-rendered backgrounds. So these graphics, they look so amazing. They were amazing at the time. They were stunning, but they weren't rendered in real time, right? They were rendered, by probably an army of workstation PCs at the developer, Cyan. And then you just got the images in the game, and you click through these static images. And that's how adventure games were. I didn't actually play Riven at the time of its release. I played it some years later. I want to say probably 2003, 2004-ish, when I borrowed it from a different friend who just loved it and insisted that I must check it out. I have to admit, I never got that far into it. Some of the puzzles were pretty challenging, but I remember that the setting was really striking. I remember it was really cool how they integrated full motion video, so like live recordings of actual actors integrated into these static pre-rendered backgrounds, so that it was a bit more dynamic, and you did have some sort of characterization. That was pretty cool. Let's get this open here. I remember the setting was pretty neat. It was sort of this like arid volcanic landscape, but it was scattered about with these like steampunk kind of devices and things like that. It felt, like Myst, but different. So this one has sort of this, I don't know, weird cardboard piece here. And then here, I'm just gonna dump everything out here because this actually has quite a bit in it. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's everything. Put that over there. And so the first thing first, we've got the game discs. Riven came on 5, I think, game discs. And they're in this really nice little slipcase here. I'm going to take this out like so. Got art on both sides. And again, in perfect shape, like brand new, basically. Here is a little manual. This one actually has a very small manual, but there's something else in here that's a lot bigger, as I'll show you in a second. User's manual. These games were driven by the mouse, so you click around, of course. Let's see, what were the requirements for Riven in the year 1997? Windows 95, 100 megahertz Pentium, so my old Pentium 166 would have run it just fine. But when I did eventually play it, it was on an Athlon XP machine. 75 megabytes of hard disk space, 16 megs of RAM, which is how much that Pentium 166 had. 16 megs. These fun glyphs of these animals in here. Also compatible with Mac. 90 megahertz power PC or higher required. I had a friend different friend than the one who lent me the game, who had a PowerPC Mac at the time, and had some really, really cool games for it, actually. I really enjoyed that machine. Nothing else really that exciting in here, no lore or anything. But we can see a little picture of the dev team there. The people of Cyan. That's fun. And the discs themselves, each one comes in its own little slipcase. And each one has its own art on it. Super cool. Disc 3. Disc 4. And disc 5. And the discs themselves are in, again, perfect shape. Like, this honestly looks like it was almost never used. All of it's pretty pristine. It's in, like, this is how many years old now? 27 years old. And looking, yeah, like it came out yesterday, honestly. All right, put this back in there. Slide this in here. Please work with me. I'll do it later. But also in this box is the official strategy guide. So whoever bought this game must have also bought the strategy guide separately. And you know what? I can't blame them for that because, like I said, some of the puzzles were dang hard. You can see this was $14.99 at the time. $14.99. Mend all that is riven. Clear step-by-step walkthroughs, detailed visual aids for exact guidance, all kinds of good stuff. Full color map and poster inside. Let's take a look. Again, this thing is pristine. Oh hey, it was sold for $14.99, but actually it was supposed to be $20 US or almost 30 Canadian. So let's see how good these walkthroughs are. Telescope puzzle. Nearby hulks what seems to be a huge viewing device. An eyepiece, 2 movable levers, a button. The lens points down at a closed hatch with 5 buttons. The device seems to lack power, and I can't find an on-off switch. And I assume... Oh, no, I thought I was gonna... I guess the actual solutions come a little bit later, maybe. But, yeah, so here we have some kind of solutions. But also, here is that poster they mentioned, which is, just trying to figure out if I can pull this out of here without, okay, it'll fold out. So, let's see. I think I might have to actually tear it to get it out of here, and I don't really want to do that. But we can always get a sense of what it looks like. Riven takes place across a series of islands. And so that's what you can see here. The map. There. And then I guess on the other side of this, which I'm not really going to be able to see because it's folded inwards, but the other side must be a poster. Let's just take a peek. Yeah, so it's a big screenshot from the game. The big black border done up very nicely. It's really hard for me to show you, but it looks like it's pretty neat. I don't really want to tear this out here right now. So, it's pretty fun. This was, of course, the heyday for printed strategy guides. The late 90s to the early 2000s, but certainly the 90s. This looks really nicely produced, actually. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's maps, and diagrams, all sorts of things. Because, I mean, the internet existed, but it was not nearly like as ubiquitous as it is today. We weren't always online. 1997, was the era of dial-up modems, and it was much less common to just jump online and immediately find all the game strats, walkthroughs you needed. And certainly there was no YouTube or anything like that, so you couldn't just go look up a video of somebody doing it, right? So there's some other fun stuff in here as well. The Journeyman Project 3 Legacy of Time. This is an advertisement for a game that was published by the same publisher, Red Orb. And I never played Legacy of Time. I guess it was another adventure game. There was a demo. Oh, a demo included on the discs for Riven. This was developed by, yes, that's right there, actually, demo located on Riven 1 disc. This was developed by Presto Studios, whom I believe went on to take up the reins of the Myst series. I think Presto developed Myst 3 after Riven. So, whereas Cyan developed Myst and Riven, and eventually came back for Myst 5, I believe. Here's a catalog of games from Red Orb Entertainment. I love this kind of stuff, you guys. This takes me back. Riven and Myst. War Breeds. Never played it. Warlords 3. There you go. We were talking about the Warlord series earlier. Take No Prisoners. Journeyman Project 3. Extreme Warfare. The Last Express. Editor's Choice from PC Gamer. East Front. Looks like a war game. Super fun. Some screenshots of these games. War Breeds looks like a banger. It looks fun. Neat stuff. What is this? Gear for the Journey. Oh, okay. It's pretty corny. This is not corny, but it's merch. It's Riven merch. We've got books, hats, coffee mugs. Let's see. Wall calendar for $8. It's not bad. Mug was $10. The caps were $15. And some more merch. It's like a messenger bag, soundtracks, posters. This one right here. This one right here is, I believe, the poster that is inside that strategy guide. Right there. Or something very similar. Anyway. let's see. T-shirts were $12. It's pretty reasonable, even adjusting for inflation, you know. The duffel bag, $30. Not so shabby. What do you think this is? Artifacts. There's a lot of advertising in this box. A lot of advertising. Okay, so these are more collectibles, but they are like fancier. They're like less merch, more, model replicas. And Catherine's dress and vest, $125. These are actually pretty cool looking. Hunting sickle, $150. Museum replicas, limited produced these. I do not think I would be able to call the number on the back and order these anymore. Sadly. Oh my goodness, wait, hold on a second. More gear for the journey? Oh no, wait, this is the same one. Additional ribbon information. I guess just like it wasn't enough in that manual. Ribbon official hints and solutions. Order your strategy guide now. I guess the former owner of this box took advantage of this offer, because we do in fact have that strategy guide here. And a troubleshooting guide. I guess this is just generic troubleshooting. An advertisement for PC software for like keeping your PC running properly. Oil change. That's such a random thing to have in here. How they really stuffed this full of advertising. And software registration card. Oh, you can all see my registration code. What am I going to do? I can no longer go register my copy of Riven with Broderbund software, who I'm pretty sure ceased to exist, or was maybe purchased not long after Riven was published, actually. Pretty sure. Well, that was a lot of stuff. It's a lot of pack-ins there, mostly advertising, but still fun. It's like historical artifacts, right? And this thing is going to be a blast to look through. And maybe I will actually use it if I do end up playing through Riven again. And finishing it. That'd be nice, because like I said, I never did back in the day. I believe there is a remake of Riven in the works. I think it was announced a year or two ago by Cyan. And I recall that there was a modding group that was trying to do that, to do a modern 3D, fully real-time rendered remake of Riven. And Cyan reached out to them and basically wanted to work with the modders to make why is this not I want to wreck this because it's in such nice shape, but I'm just trying to figure out why it's not. Well, okay, it's just gonna get left. Wanted to use the work that the modders had put in to add to the development of this remake. So I haven't heard anything about it since. I have no idea if it's still underway or how it's going or anything about that, but I would love to play a modern remake of Riven in a full 3D engine. I think that'd be really, really cool. And if they kept the puzzles the same, well, that strategy guide would still be relevant. Alright, so the final box that I have to show you here is a doozy. And it's actually 3 games in one. I have here the Sid Meier triple game pack. This has 3 games from legendary game designer Sid Meier packed in here. From looking at the dates on the box, it looks like this package came out in 1993. And it contains Sid Meier's Pirates, which came out originally in 1987. Sid Meier's Railroad Tycoon, which originally released in 1990. And a game I had never heard of before, Sid Meier's Covert Action, which also released in 1990. I've heard of Pirates. I've heard of Railroad Tycoon. I've never heard of Covert Action before. Sid Meier is, of course, perhaps best known for the Civilization games. His name's all over those, and that series persists to this day. In fact, I just streamed some Civilization 6 literally last night. So, on the YouTube channel and on Twitch, twitch.tv/theasmrnerd. But I've not played any of these games, so these are all new to me in a sense. I love how 90s looking this package here is. It is, of course, a little more beaten up than some of the other boxes we've looked at here. Looks like someone spilled something on here at one point. Looks in kind of rough shape, but it's also a fair bit older than the rest of them. It's 31 years old now. And we have some information on the back here about Sid Meier's games. I did look each of these up just to learn a little more about them, and they are all critically acclaimed. Yeah, it's crazy to me that they released both Covert Action and Railroad Tycoon in the same year, and both of them were critically acclaimed. Railroad Tycoon won a bunch of Game of the Year awards and stuff at the time. It says here, 3 classic games from Entertainment Software's premier game designer. Covert Action, Railroad Tycoon, and Pirates for only $49.95. Requiring IBM compatible PC, Tandy, and most, I guess, IBM clones. You need at least 640K of RAM, 3.5-inch floppy. What else does it say on here? Joystick and mouse recommended. Sound card for Covert Action and Railroad Tycoon. Supports EGA and VGA. And Tandy 1000 video cards. So this is definitely quite a bit more primitive than what we were looking at previously. This is running on floppy disks and on DOS. So this is just like a slipcover. And inside is a box that's actually in like remarkably good condition. It's just a white box, but like it's pretty great shape. If we open that up, we have a whole treasure trove of stuff in here. First off, we have the game discs themselves. Pirates on floppy disk, published by Microprose, which was Sid Meier's company back in the day, before he ended up leaving and forming Firaxis, where he is at to this day. Yeah, these are all dated 1993. Still in this little plastic baggie. Here is Railroad Tycoon. Railroad Tycoon on a 3.5-inch floppy. For those of you who are too young to know what a floppy disk is, this is where the save icon comes from, you guys. You probably knew that, but just in case you didn't. Before USB drives and your writable CDs, floppy disks were how software was distributed and how things were saved. If it wasn't saved to a hard drive, I mean. And here is Covert Action. This one is lacking its plastic. But they're all in pristine shape. Now you might be asking yourself, Nick, do you even have a floppy drive that you can play these on? The answer is yes, I do. Not in my current PC, of course, but I have several PCs actually in the closet, 2 of which are old PCs of mine, and which could run this software in theory, but one which is, I think, even more appropriate. It's my IBM Personal System 1, which I don't have set up right now, but I bought it off Facebook Marketplace a few years back from an older couple here in town who they had babied it for its entire lifetime. It had been very well taken care of, and they still had their original receipts for the purchase, and it was in great shape. And that thing has a 386 running, a 286 running in it, I believe, which I think would be quite appropriate for this software. That PC was I think a 1990 release. Anyway, I need to get it set up one of these days so that I can actually play stuff like this. It'd be fun to do a video with it eventually. So, in the early 90s were still a time of lots of advertising. In-game boxes. This is the most 90s looking catalog. The Microprose catalog. Seriously fun software. It's got that 90s attitude. Colors, those bright colors. F-15 Strike Eagle 3. Rex and Nebular and the Cosmic Gender Bender. I don't know what that is. Looks extremely corny. Task Force 1942. Golf game. Of course, before Sid Meier was known for the Civilization series and for all these other games like Pirates and Railroad Tycoon, he was known for his work on a lot of crunchy war games, simulations, World Circuit, Racing, Control Flight Fortress, Silent Service 2, looks like a submarine game, Pirates, Gold Edition, Railroad Tycoon, Special Forces, Fields of Glory, Microprose Entertainment Pack Volume 1. What do you suppose that is? What do you think that's all about? Dr. Floyd's desktop toys. I don't know. Legacy, Realm of Terror. So many of these games I've never heard of. Knights of the Sky. Darklands. I've heard of that one. I've heard of Darklands. That's quite the art. That's quite the art on the front. Some very corny fantasy art. Challenge of the Five Realms. Civilization, the original. I had this on floppy disk somewhere at my parents' place. I have a box with those floppies and the original manual and all that in their basement, presumably. So much stuff. And check this out. Flight jacket. Flight jacket. New software from Microprose. Very clever. Very clever. Fun. I know that this is not really the main draw of this stuff, but I really love looking through these old software catalogs. Microprose warranty and customer service registration. Build an empire to stand the test of time. It's an ad for Civilization. Civilization 1. Winner of Best Consumer Product of 1991. Best Strategy Game of the Year. Best Entertainment Program of the Year. And certainly left quite the legacy. And Sid Meier was just so prolific during this era, as you can see. His name's over all kinds of stuff. And much of it was very good. In addition to Sid Meier, one designer who was, maybe less recognized, sort of, and went on to create some awesome stuff, but is not such a familiar name, is a fellow named Bruce Shelley. Bruce Shelley was in the early days of Microprose, developing a lot of these games with Sid Meier. I think Bruce Shelley co-developed or co-designed a couple of these games. I think Railroad Tycoon and Pirates as well, maybe. And I was involved with Civ. He went on to go found the Age of Empires series, was a lead design on the Age of Empires games. So he had quite the legacy as well. But you don't see his name plastered all over these things. And now we're getting into game relevant stuff. It's another map, you guys. Again, in pristine shape. This looks like it's never been opened. It's like crisp. This is a map to go with Sid Meier's Pirates. Like, I honestly don't think this has ever been opened. It's on a nice, thick paper stock. I'm gonna try and open it very carefully here, so as not to crease it, you know. There we go. So we have here, what does it say? The Spanish Main, 1560 to 1700. And it's a map of the Caribbean and Central America, Northern South America, Florida up here. But yeah, it's pristine. I don't think it was ever opened. It's in perfect shape. Really cool. Here we have the manual for pirates. The manual for pirates. Captain's broadsheet. Pike and shot. The tactics of land battle. Memoirs of Captain Sidney. So it's all done in kind of a, lore-friendly way, traveling the Caribbean. But also, it's a manual teaching you the ins and outs of the game. There's some fun stuff in the back here. Some history of the pirate age. The Silver Empire, 1560 to 1600. merchants and smugglers, 1600 to 1620. The new colonists, 1620 to 1640. The Buccaneer Heroes, 1660 to 1680. As I was saying, so much fun information in these old manuals. Okay, now we're really getting into the big ones here. Covert action. This manual is beefy, but not the beefiest. There will be one more after this that's even bigger. Remember I was talking about the Chongus manuals? But this is honestly like, it's like a book, you know? All kinds of information in here about how to play the game, the items and interfaces. My understanding is that covert action is made up of kind of a series of interlinked mini games where you're ultimately solving mysteries, trying to take down crime syndicates. There's some of the characters in the game. The hacker man over there. Those character portraits. So good. Game reference on the back for controls. But there's a lot. There's a lot in here. Alright. Railroad Tycoon. The most impressive and intimidating of all the manuals here. Look at the size of this lad. Look at how much information is in this dang book. It's wild. Train types, building trains, naming trains, stations, maps of different regions, technical information on a variety of different locomotives. All kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. Economies. Rate wars. In the back here, we have charts. We have player aid card. We have world economies chart for England, for Europe, for the United States. And as if all this wasn't enough, you guys, we have more. A technical supplement, because they didn't say what they needed to say in the, how many pages is this? This is, oops. In the 181 big pages in this manual, they did not cover enough. So here we have a technical supplement with yet more information. Yet more information. Okay, so this is more about how to run the game and troubleshooting and stuff like that. But there are notes, world economy notes, North America, England, Europe, lists of cities, European cities. And finally, because the pull-out reference cards in the back of the manual might not have been enough, we also have standalone reference cards. World economies charts for the US, for England, for Europe, and a player reference card. That is everything in that box. I just love this stuff. I love just how nerdy this stuff was back in the day. How much effort and care and love went into building these products, which isn't to say that the same amount of love and effort and care doesn't go into modern games. of course, developers work extremely hard on modern games. But there's a real sincerity to the niche nature of these older games and just how nerdy they are, and how much it's clear that the developers are so passionate about the topics that they're covering, like railroads and piracy in the 1500s and 1600s. So that is everything that I have here. I have found some other, cool stuff at Thrift store, gaming wise. I've got some pretty neat collector's editions from some more recent Blizzard games that come with these beautiful art books. I do have those boxes of Age of Empires games, 1 and 2 up there, amongst other things. I don't have time to show that today, of course, but maybe in a future video. And of course, I'm always keeping an eye out and, picking up more stuff when I find it, if it tickles my fancy. All the stuff we looked at here today, really cheap, all under $10, kind of like $6 to $8 for each of these kind of thing, which, I don't know, I just have such a soft spot for the tactility, for, the nostalgia. I love it. And I hope you enjoyed getting to take a look at it with me here today. So this was kind of a longer video than I planned. Ended up being pretty freeform and rambly, but I hope you had fun checking out these vintage PC gaming treasures. And maybe we'll do this again sometime. Thank you so much for joining me, my friends. And I look very forward to having you back here again next time. Farewell for now. And here we are at the special thanks section of the video, which is the part where I give special thanks to those who deserve to be specially thanked. And those people are this channel's supporters. They support kindly on Patreon and YouTube memberships. You can see all their awesome names right here. They also get some fun perks while they're at it, like early access, usually, to my weekend videos, voting in a monthly poll to select the topic of a video each month at the Foos Row tier. And at the Foos Row tier, those legendary supporters get their names read out in a special spoken shout out in every one of my videos. And you are about to hear those names right now. It is my great pleasure to read to you our Foos Row tier patrons for this video, starting with Rango Steele, Jake Luffney, Odinson, K-Time, Drummer Brit, and Ragnar Ragnarsson. Love them. Can't thank them enough. I can't thank any of these supporters enough. It is so kind that they contribute to this channel, to what I do here, and support me making the kind of content that I love to make the most. That's real swell of them. Real swell. Thank you, supporters. Thank you for everything you do. And if you, dear viewer or listener, would like to join these fine folks, enjoy the perks, and support what I do here, please consider checking out the links down below at the top of the video description. And you can sign on up, and you too will get special thanks, just like these fine folks right here. Thanks again, supporters.